Hi everyone, welcome to Education Disruption Highlights. So in this presentation, I'm actually going to talk about what are the key ideas that is actually being presented. Some of the ideas here will be overlapped with the summary, but I think it's worth to actually listening to this. So the first thing is that they say that actually changes or transitions are already underway. Lectures are becoming learning media, homework is going to become pre-work, and then courses actually become pathways. What does it mean by pathway? You actually don't really take a course and learn predefined things, but actually you explore what you like, and somehow in the end you could do something with that, which is like pathways. Exams will become progressions, which actually you don't go to exam. If you fail, then you fail. Progressions is like you haven't mastered this skill, you actually progress to something else, or you actually progress this, you use another way to really progress into something else. Teachers will not be that who is actually giving the knowledge, but instead they will facilitate and help you overcome some obstacles and be able to learn better. Schools, right, will actually not be schools which go in to be like a factory, but it will be learning environments that actually engage you and induce your learning. And workers will actually, from full-timers, will slowly become more and more freelancers, and workers will actually become tripreneurs. Tripreneurs, that means they create something that is craft and then they sell it. And employees are actually agile professionals. That means they could actually quickly learn things and then to be able to deliver results quickly. So these are actually the changes that are underway. And for them, right, they're actually looking at two types of organization. One is actually exponential organization, where you could scale learning services at exponential rates. Let's look at some example. First is actually what they call mobile math. It's not mobile math tutor. It's actually photomath. It's actually a mobile math tutor. So they actually solve 200 millions of problems per day. So if you actually need to teach someone on how to solve a math problem, if you take 5 minutes, right, 20 million will actually take a long time. And if you factor into the teacher's cost, it will actually be very high and very expensive. But here, what they say is that the team, right, is actually very small, because from what I see here, they say that their team their team is very small, and they're actually only spending $4,000 per day, which if you actually compare to hiring the teachers and really spending that much time, right, that is actually a lot more cheaper. So that's why they can scale. Next is actually the Edmodo, which is like the Facebook or social network for schools. So this is actually what you could do to be able to actually put everyone together, and they could scale because they have actually 90 million registered users, and they have 192 countries, and a lot of resources is being shared, so people could learn in this environment. Brainly is actually like a peer-to-peer Q&A place where you could actually have every subject and every grade. So if, for example, if you have something that you don't really understand, you ask inside this place, you could actually get an answer literally within 15 minutes, according to what they say. So that's why they could scale also, because they basically have a community that is engaged, and actually they engineer the community to be able to self-rely and to self-generate. So I think that is interesting. They have actually around 8,000 questions per hour, so that's a lot. Next is actually called Brilliant. Brilliant is actually a STEM challenge, or like a community where there will be actually a lot of STEM quizzes and competitions. So there are two things. First is actually for students, right, who's actually very good to challenge themselves further, and at the same time it is actually for companies or places to look for STEM talents to be able to differentiate who is good and who is not good. So this is actually what they could do, and they could scale. And next one is actually looking for breakthrough models. So how do you actually change your model to be able to deliver 10 to 100 times of the impact of what is currently available? So we look at the first is actually Bridge International School Academy. So what does Bridge International School Academy do? If we take a very quick look here, we could see that what they really do is actually to develop a system to be able to help deliver better content to school. So this is actually a for-profit school. So for applicants that actually go to this school, they need to pay a very low fee that they need to pay. And the teachers there, right, actually the norm of the teachers there is that a lot of teachers actually absent from the class. So if teachers are absent from the class, that means the students are learning nothing. So with data-driven technology, all of the teachers will have one tablet, and this kind of tablet is actually an e-ink tablet from what I see. So the maintenance is low, the cost is low, and the contents, right, are actually being researched and tested at least 15 hours in the back end. So that's why all the teachers actually get the best lectures or the best materials, and the teachers themselves will go through training, and through this, right, they will actually have the attendance of the teacher, attendance of the students all through the tablet, and then all the data will actually be pushed back, and there will be actually a data improvement and continuous feedback loop. So this is why they could actually deliver such high quality content with very little cost and still be profitable. So this is actually something that is interesting. Next is actually General Assembly. General Assembly is actually a bootcamp based learning or reskilling camp. So they actually have 20 campuses worldwide. Most of their full-time courses is 10 to 12 weeks, which is actually 2.5 months to 3 months, and it costs around 100 to 200k. And by the end of these 3 months, you'll be able to do all those in-demand fields that's in the new technology academy, like for example coding, UX design, data science, and so on. There's actually one weakness of this though. You need to be the citizen or actually working in that country already in order for you to join General Assembly. But the idea itself is very interesting because you just focus from 9 o'clock until 5 o'clock, and you have networking opportunities and mentorship from industry, those who are really working in industry. And within 3 months, you acquire a new skill that you could use directly. So this is actually very interesting. Next is actually called Make School. So Make School, what do they do is that actually could achieve a computer degree within 2 years. So in other words, instead of spending 4 years in school learning something else that is really not important, they actually put the newest skills and then compare everything for you to be able to have the in-out to the IT industry in 2 years' time. So this itself is interesting also. Next is Minerva. Minerva is actually reinventing the college experience, because if you really go to overseas schools, right, they actually have a lot of debate. I think Quintonians, we actually have this experience when we're actually doing the justice class that is conducted by Hui Wat. So here what it does is that actually the students that are studying in Minerva, they will actually need to change a city every semester. Of course, this is actually expensive, but they say that it's actually a lot cheaper than a lot of leading colleges, because per year you only pay $10,000 for the tuition, whereas in the leading universities you might pay up to $100,000 or maybe $50,000. Of course, if you actually combine everything, the living expenses and so on, it will actually amount to $20,000+ per year. And the interesting part is that you need to actually go into discussion, and there's a system for you to actually have a live discussion with up to 19 students at the same time. So the teacher will be able to actually group you into groups, and all the live discussions are actually recorded, and teachers, or there will be someone else that is grading the discussion and give you feedback later. So here what they actually really focus on is actually the discussion and the critical thinking base. So you could actually first actually have better perspective of different cities in the world, different cultures. Second, you're actually being, I would say, forced to learn critical thinking and discussion, and to be able to collaborate with others. And third, you will actually need to be able to really live on yourself, because it's actually an experience that you actually need to move from place to place. And according to them, right, they actually have lower acceptance rates compared to Stanford and Harvard. Okay, next is actually Smashcut. Smashcut is actually a film school that you could actually complete within a very short period of time. If I'm not wrong, it's actually 12 weeks. And you could actually just pay less than $5,000, which is very cheap, because film school tends to be very expensive. Here you actually be assigned a real mentor, and they will actually mentor on your work. There's actually two paths. One is actually the normal path, and the other one is the accelerated path, which you could actually learn more in a shorter period of time. So for those who really want to become a film director, they could actually take this course in a very low cost. Okay, so this one is actually VIP Kids. So VIP Kids, right, is actually a very interesting model, because you pay teachers in the US better, and you actually let the users that is actually in China to be able to gain access to native speakers at a lower cost. And at the same time, they are actually able to actually have live classes in having a lot of people. I don't think I need to actually explain this more, but the very interesting part is that actually they have a Mandarin expansion with the same concept, which is called Lingo Bus. So in other words, foreigners can learn Mandarin from Chinese speakers that's in China. So Kunping, this is actually what you're thinking about, and they are already doing it. I think it's interesting. Okay, so this two startup is very interesting because learner skill, what happens is that when you learn with them, when you qualify to be able to learn, you don't need to pay a single cent for tuition fee, and they will actually pay you up to 1,500 US dollars per month to actually help you with your living expenses. And once you completed your program, they will actually help you land a job, which is actually a 50K per year job. And if you land that job, you don't need to pay back. If you land that job, right, then you need to pay back 2.5% to 21% of your salary for 3 years. So the interesting part is that this is really the learn to earn model, and they guarantee that you get the job. So this is why this model is interesting, because it's outcome specific, and the school is actually being, I would say, rated and being responsible for the outcome of the students. And this is interesting. The second is actually Andela. Andela is actually in Africa, and it trains the top 1% talent of Africa. If you want to become or actually be in their training, what you need to do is you need to apply, and they will actually let you learn for free in an online course. After you have demonstrated that you are actually good enough, then they will actually ask you to come in for an interview. If you pass the interview, then they will actually ask you to participate in a 2-week simulated sprint or 2-week simulated real-world experience. And if you pass, then you're accepted into the 4-year program. In other words, you are actually being trained for 4 years and paid a salary, and you don't need to pay a single cent. So this is actually a talent as a service model. And then what they do is that they actually train all these kind of talents and then connect them to world-class company that need this kind of talent. So this model is also very interesting. I think the models about the programming school that we have said about just now, I think most of them, if not all of them, are not accredited. But the key for employer that is looking here is that they want to actually hire talent to be able to work. So if the school itself has developed reputation that the graduates or the employees are actually good enough to work, so I think that's already good enough. And then I think this paradigm actually really breaks the thing. And if we're actually going to talk to SAU, I think these kind of models are things that we will be actually able to tell them, and maybe we could actually work something out. I think this is interesting. So about the trends that is there, so like I have said in the summary, there's actually the rise of live. So you have VIP one-on-one, also one-to group, and then one-to-many. So this is actually what they have. And Minerva is actually the live discussion, which is also live. And the thing that I have actually invested in, the Learn Capital, Minerva is actually the real high-end efficacy. So they have an active learning platform which students are actively participating, and there's really no time for you to rest and stop, because you need to talk for like 3 minutes or 5 minutes, and then once the time is up, then you will need to switch to another person. So this is actually, the system is automated, and from the video that I see, is interesting. And the next is actually the VIP kids. I think they have machine learning algorithms to be able to help them to gather feedback and really to make the teacher better and so on. Last but not least is Varsity Tutors. Oh my god, I said 15 minutes in my other video, but they say in 15 seconds any learner anywhere in the world can connect to a high-fit tutor within 15 seconds. So that is actually in 100 subjects. This is actually something that I think is very interesting. So this is live enabling. And they are actually saying that now there's actually a trend that education startups, right, are actually getting a lot of evaluations. Like North Anglia got 4.7 evaluation, and then the GEMS Education, the IPO, actually has 5 times more evaluation. So in other words, right, because there's a lot of needs, so cloud power schools, right, could reach breakout evaluations. That means if we actually have a good solution, we might be able to get a very good evaluation in the stock market or even in the market. So solution is very important. And for him, he was saying that there's actually a few types of approach. One is the general models approach, where you have full stack, you actually provide everything. You provide real estate, human capital, curriculum, and operating system, and so on. And the second thing is actually the corporate training sector is actually ripe for disruption, because a lot of inefficiencies and there's a lot of dissatisfaction in there. So reskilling is actually something that is very important, because we know that change is actually happening fast. But the current providers in the corporate training sector might not have good enough product to actually do that. So this is something that we could think about. Next is actually to connect learning and employment, like the one that have actually said just now, LearnerSkill and so on, Coursera. How do you actually have pathways, right, to let learners to be able to have an outcome, and after that they will actually employed. So this is actually something that is very important, because universities, they move slow. Once they actually have things that's already in the curriculum and teach to the students, it's already outdated. So places or providers like Coursera, Udacity, they actually collaborated with the companies, and companies also start to come up with their own syllabus, and they teach this to the students, and the students, after they learn, they could be employed. So this is something that is connecting learning and employment. And then outcome aligned financing. So outcome aligned financing means that you don't actually need to pay back if you don't get the outcome that you want. So this could be actually income based paying back, like I would say LearnerSkill is actually one of these example. I think Make School have something like this. So in other words, if your outcome is not what you want, you don't need to pay back. So this is also interesting. And like I've said just now, so a lot of actually staff, they're actually looking for unmet demands in terms of gifted learners or even struggling learners, and they are finding niches in this kind of place to actually start up their company. So example of this is actually, how about the dad who has no idea what kind of constructive activities to do with the children while mom's out on errands in the market? So Kin EDU. So these are things that solve certain small problems, which we will say is precision solution. The other one is starting for moms who want their dad to read to their children instead of watching football match market. So this is also another thing that could be solved. We could actually have Remind, which is actually for parents who are tired of fighting with their kids about if they did their homework or not. So it could be something like this. So he's saying like innovation is fractal. That means when you actually have an idea, it could actually be created to another idea also. Demand is also fractal, because no matter how you zoom into something, it could actually have something else. So this is actually the point, that you can start from anywhere and anything could work also. So the path to market, there's actually two paths. One is actually value innovation, where good quality, where this is actually good for quality innovation, where you have specialized use cases or you want additional features with premium quality and so on. So underserved market or extreme market. And the other one is actually disruptive innovation. This is actually good for access in innovation. For example, for people who cannot access to something, you actually make it accessible. So with accessibility and affordability. Or overserved market, there's a lot of competitors, but everything is hard. You make it easier for them. So what he's actually advising is actually to avoid the mass market, because mass market is already too crowded. It's actually hard for innovation to have that. But what you can do is you can actually do value innovation or disruptive innovation, then slowly move to the mass market. And you need to differentiate or die, because for example, you don't really cover anything that is actually in the customer's offering. Your capabilities and your customer needs, you just cover that part. So what he actually let the example here is actually Harvard and Minerva. Harvard has a very good campus and good administration, so Minerva actually eliminate this, and Harvard has research facility. Minerva reduced this cost choices. Minerva also reduced, don't have that much cost, but what it focuses is actually to increase the academic rigor, cognitive skill development, which you have the discussion, and then create global experience, which every semester you need to change your CD and fully engage learning. Because from what I see, from what I research, students actually have really tough learning. 12 hours a day, they need to do a lot of work and thinking. And emerging business model, you have either full stack solutions or precision products. So how do you actually have the revenue? It could be revenue share and so on. These are all the details. Like I have said in another video, precision product could be something that you just solve one small pain point. For example, behavior in classroom. So this is actually what Class Dojo is doing. Full stack solution might be like what Canvas is doing. You actually have everything, the learning solution that you have. You might even have the Proctor services or even the backend solution. I'm not sure Canvas have this or not, but this is just an example of full stack solution. Another thing is actually about unbundling, because now there's a lot of things that is actually being bundled together, but the way that they arrange it might not be actually the optimal or best way. So there's a lot of startups that try to actually make it a la carte and then stack them together or rebundle it into something new, as we have actually seen in the examples above, like making it a la carte. Instead of actually learning all the things in 4-year course in a university, you actually make a la carte, like single subject. Coursera is doing this. and maybe you rebundle them into something else. For example, Minerva is rebundling the experience into something else. So this is actually an example. So this is an example of unbundling the a la carte learning in higher education. So you have knowledge acquisition, so you unbundle it, you have Coursera and so on, access to opportunities. How do you actually be recognized for your capabilities and be hired for a good job? And employable skills, how do you actually make sure that you have skills that is in demand by employers? And personal transformation, how do you make sure that your attitude is good, something like that, to actually transform you more. So for those who actually went to Landmark before, it's something like this but digitized. So that I think this is something that is interesting to think about. And anything can be further unbundled. You could see that from learners and employees, right, they actually want different things. So for learners, they want a ticket into the company, whereas employers, they want to know that is this person committed or not. And learners want to be able to demonstrate their worth. That means they have the skill and what it takes to go into this good company. And employees want to know that before I hire you, are you competent or not? And for learners, they want an opportunity network. That means that if there's something better, I could go. And then for employees, they want signals of aptitude. That means like, hey, oh, this guy is actually having this aptitude. I want him first before anyone else, and so on. So it could actually be something that's simple and complex to be further unbundled. And new models will actually unbundle market needs. So a ticket in, competence of measurement, you could actually have different things like, for example, digital credential and badges, or communities or practice portfolio. These are static because once you create it, it's there already. But if it's actually more real time, you could actually have project-based or industry assessment. So as the standard change, you could actually go and do more to demonstrate your worth more. So it could be either skill centered or knowledge centered. Because industry assessment is actually knowledge centered. You might know, but you might not be able to do it. But project based, right, you could do it. So that could demonstrate it. So these are the new models that might be actually appearing. Okay, and then they are actually saying that recursive change, that means change will become faster and faster. Why? Because humans write better software, right? And humans will build newer hardware and better hardware, and newer hardware can run better software, and humans think of new and better software to write. So the thing here will actually go faster and faster. So skills get by, or actually skills will actually need to be learned faster and faster. So that's why reskilling is something that is actually very important. So according to the presentation. And there are actually these kind of skills that needs to be explicitly taught. And he also recommended the book called Creating Innovators. So hard skill and soft skills are both needed. So instead of training for our students to be exam ready, we need to have them to be future ready. So basically that is the end of the highlight. And of course, I think I missed the IT model, which actually you start from going deep in one area. This is actually in our parents' age. Then you actually start to go for T-shape. So that means you have one very deep area, but you know something else. You go to the Y-shape model, where you need to know two things that is quite deep already, but you have one thing that's super deep. Then you have now, which is actually the newest model, which is M model. That means you know multiple things, which is actually deep enough. I think this one, if you really connect, you connect back to Kunming's 1 in a million. You need to have 3 things that you are 1 in 100. So this is actually the M model, and somehow you need to connect them together and make yourself 1 in a million. So basically, this is actually the highlight of the Education Disrupt conference. So I hope this helps. Thank you, guys.